What is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the third part of the Amplify and CDK workshop. So previously, we set up all of our Lambda functions and then finally got to the point of deploying with the CDK. So I think the next step here says we're going to be deploying and testing the CDK. Yeah, so I guess we'll just dive right into it. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, and figured I'd just jump back into a stream here and dive back into where we left off previously. So yeah, let's go in. Okay, so deploying and testing to see what we've deployed before making changes at any time. You can build the project and run CDK diff command from the root of the CDK project. And so from within the next dash backend directory, we can just run this command here. The npm run build compiles the TypeScript, and then the CDK diff command will actually show us the differential between what is deployed and what we're going to deploy. So you can see there's quite a bit of resources that are kind of ready ready to deploy. We have the Cognito user pools, IAM roles, our GraphQL API, schema, API key. We have our app sync resolvers, our table down here. So quite a bit of stuff here that is ready to go. So I think let's see. At this point, we're ready to deploy the backend. To do so, run the following command from your terminal in the root directory. So again, we're just going to compile the TypeScript, and then deploy it. However, at the end here, you can see that we're using this output flag to output the values of our GraphQL API URL, the API key, the region, the user pool ID, the user client ID. So when those get output, they're going to go to this JSON file within our front end. Oh, sorry. No, it's just going to output to a JSON file within. Oh, wait, sorry. No, I got that wrong again. This looks wrong though, because we named our front end file CDK-next. I thought that was part of the. This might be a typo here. But essentially, I think the idea is that we output the values of these resources here to our front end so that we can consume the values of those outputs in the front ends, right? So I'm just we'll just type this out. Let me clear. And then we'll just run, let me see, let me bump up the font here. That's a little bit better. So if we run npm run build and CDK deploy -o, and we actually want CDK-next, or whatever the name of your front end directory is. And then I think it's important to name it CDK-exports.json. We'll see. Exports.json. So we should see from within the front end now, we should get our exports.json. Oh, so the CDK command is like showing us all the IAM changes that will be applied. Looks good to me. All right. So while that's running, we can kind of read ahead here a little bit. It says creating a user. Since this is an authenticated API, we need to create a user in order to test out the API. So to create a user, we're going to go into the Amazon Cognito dashboard and click on Manage User Pools. Click on the user pool that starts with CDK blog user pool. Be sure that you're in the same region. Okay. All right, so I have the AWS console here fired up. Let me bring it over to this screen without showing anything sensitive. Yeah, and I mean, this might take a minute too, by the way, because obviously you can see over here it's still running the CloudFormation to build it out. But I think if we go over to CloudFormation, I really like the new layout, by the way, of the AWS console. Like, side note, um, at work, I usually am working in the AWS GovCloud region, which is like a FedRAMP high version of of a AWS region, and they don't have. They're kind of like behind most of the time on the UI design or features or services even, because they have to be compliant with the requirements of that region. And more times than often, it's like takes them a few years to catch up to the commercial regions, like in US West 2 in Oregon. So I always like coming over to the commercial console and looking at all the cool design or the new design features of what they're building, because I don't get to see it very often. Okay, so it looked like that finished, but if I open up CloudFormation on the other tab here, you can see our back end here. It's looks like it's complete now. So let me just get rid of this, and if I refresh, hopefully we see our. Let me see if I go to manage user pools. Okay, so here is the user pool. For our application. Let's see. So it wants us to, in the dashboard, click users and groups to create a new user. Note, you do not need to input a phone number to create a new user. Okay, so users and groups. It says create a user. Just say Blake is the username. Temporary password. Oh, been some phony, some invalid phone number format. So I thought that might. Let's see if we add the dashes, if that works better. No. Let's see if they do a screenshot of. Oh, it says he doesn't need a phone number to create a new user. Let's see if we can get rid of this here. Well, oh, password did not conform to password policy. Okay. All right, let's try that. All right, there we go. Hopefully that's the hardest part of this workshop, is creating a test user. Alrighty, so now it looks like that we've created a test user, so we can move on to testing in AppSync. Now that the user is created, we can make both authenticated and unauthenticated requests in AppSync. To test out the API, we can use the graphical editor and in the AppSync dashboard. To do so, open the AppSync dashboard and search for CDK blog app. Next, click on queries to open the query editor. Here you'll be able to choose between public access API key and private access user, Cognito user pools. All right. So if we go back into the console and we search for AppSync, and here's our CDK blog app. And if we go to queries, I'm gonna move this over temporarily so we can see the whole screen, right? All right. So I'm actually kind of curious to see. Well, okay. Another thing is just to make sure, right, that now that our backend deployed, you can see that our JSON file was outputted into the front end correctly with the values that we'll be able to use on the front end. But if we look at our backend in the GraphQL schema, I'm just curious to see like how this kind of maps to what we're seeing in the AppSync console, right? So under queries, we can see that we have get post by ID. Oh, I wonder if that's too small to see. Let me bump it up one. I think that looks a little bit better. Okay, so maybe it's not necessarily the schema that we are looking at here, but in our in our CDK application, what the heck? get rid of this here. So in the CDK application, do we specify these queries? Okay. So this is our like Lambda data source result, like the Lambda resolver, I think. So, so here you can see we identified the type name as query, and then the field names is what we see here is get post by ID, list posts, and then post by username. And those resolve to our Lambda functions, or they map the GraphQL operations to our Lambda functions, right? So interesting. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because up here we're saying we're identifying this object of Lambda DS, and then add Lambda data source, and then there's these create resolver methods off of that object that we're creating these queries. All right. Anyways, let's keep going. I think went down a rabbit hole there. So okay. So what's next? To make any authenticated request for mutations or querying by user ID, you will need to sign in using the user you created in the Cognito dashboard. Okay. So within here, apparently, okay, we can specify either API key or Cognito user pool. So if we click on this, I'm assuming, yeah, now we get this button that says log in with user pools. I'll select this client ID. My username was Blake, and then my password. And we should be able to log in. Oh, I think that's a good sign. So I guess I have to change my password. So far, so good. It says log out Blake. So I think we've successfully authenticated. Okay, so it also says you'll be prompted to change your password, which we did. So I think we're doing good. Alrighty. So in the AppSync dashboard, click on Queries to open the graphical editor. In the editor, create a new post with the following mutation. Be sure to have the authentication mode set to Cognito user pools in order to execute the following operations: create post, delete post, update post, post by username. Okay, so now we're just gonna basically like add some data to make sure that we are able to make authenticated requests to our GraphQL, right? So query or click on queries to open the GraphQL editor. In the editor, create a new post. So I think we have to say mutation. Oh, right. Okay. So let me get rid of this here. Oh, here we go. So by like after we've authenticated, we can see now that there is a, get rid of that. Oh, maybe not. So when I hit mutation and then the plus, it adds a mutation, I guess. Click on queries to open the graphical editor. In the editor, create a new post with the following mutation. So I think if we just add it to here, let's see what happens if we just put that into. Yeah, because okay, so we're adding a create post mutation. So if I look at, I wonder if this would show, like if this would show us if we have any data now. But all right, we'll just run this with creating the post mutation, and then uh-oh, cannot find module UUID. Uh-oh, that's not good. So what happened here? Would that be on the so that would be in our Lambda functions, huh? Was not able to find. See if he says anything in here. Nope. Sweet. Some live. We're doing it live. We're gonna try to troubleshoot and see if we can find out what's going on here. So if we head over to the Lambda console, let's see if we can look at the logs and see how we can fix this here. Because it looks to me like it tried to like invoke the create post Lambda, but it had some trouble importing the UUID module, or okay. So let's see here. It's a fat Lambda. All Alrighty, so it looks like it did the create post. Okay. And then well, let's look at the see if there's any logs we can look at. Although it's probably just gonna say like couldn't import UUID. Maybe I should just Google it, but let's take a look here. Right. It's probably the same exact error message that we're seeing in the AppSync console. But all right. So what happens if we run this guy? Or this might be better. Did I pick the wrong? Oh, maybe fix. Updating UUID didn't work. Had to manually replace require UUID to require, and then it worked. I don't know. Should we try it? Let me just make sure, like in here, that we didn't do that wrong. So here's the createpost.ts file. And looks like we did it correctly. Require may be converted to an import. Gotta love live troubleshooting here. All right, so Good old Stack Overflow to the rescue, hopefully. Okay, so this looks a little more familiar with what we're experiencing. So let's see here. Anybody got any good answers? Since Node.js v12, AWS Lambda does not support importing libraries from Lambda itself. But why? As per accepted answer, it is now required that Lambda won't have third-party support directly because Node 8 version is deprecated, which now might still accepted. That doesn't make sense. Okay. AWS request ID. I guess that would be a unique identifier, right? Yeah, it's a now external, so you have to npm install locally and bundle it into your Lambda function. Damn it. Okay, so we're going off script now. Let's see if we can like CDK and layers. Or I wonder if we can actually just go in here. Let's go back to our Lambda function in the console. Just to keep this moving along here. There's like the layers button, right? So I wonder if we can just like add a layer and then AWS provided layers, custom layers. AWS provided layers with Perl 5. App config dynamic configuration is deployed. Oh, that's cool. Well, maybe not. Okay, so let's see. Like, how do we add a Lambda layer? A Lambda layer that includes the UUID module. Oh, here we go. Okay. So let me move this over a little bit. Let's see what it says. The layer version class can be used to define Lambda layers and manage granting permissions to other AWS accounts or organizations. Interesting. Okay. Did this say anything about maybe we should just use this as like the unique identifier. I think maybe that's like the path of least resistance here, because it'll still be a unique identifier for the post ID, and it would avoid trying to just add more, like add that layer to our CDK application. Because like maybe how do you npm install locally, or what's the like downloading and install? This was with Python. I think it's the same. I just don't know how to like bring down the UUID package locally. Like maybe I'll just download UUID npm package. I don't know. Okay. Going full circle here, but I think I'm actually gonna just, like I said before, just change it to this and see what happens. I'm not exactly sure. Let me see if there's any like supporting documentation for context. So AWS Lambda context object in Node.js. when your Lambda runs your function, it passes a context object to the handler. This object provides methods and properties that provide information about the invocation function in an execution environment. So, okay. So here's the AWS request ID, the identifier of the request, of the invocation request. Seems very similar to a unique identifier. So, and we don't have to import the UUID module. So, all right, let's go with that. See what happens. So I'm just gonna comment out the UUID stuff here, and oh, wait a minute, because our main.ts not passing in the context. So maybe we add the context here. And then we're passing in the event arguments post and username. And maybe we just pass in the context as well. Into our create post. Does that make sense so far? I have no idea. Okay, so then we come back into our create post. And now I wonder if we say context. No. Because we're saying event arguments post username and context. So can I just type in here like request or AWS dot or sorry context.aws request ID. And then within our create post, we can say we could still call it UUID, I think. Because it's the third argument, right? And that's a string. And then this would just be equal. It wouldn't be that. It would just be UUID, I believe. Because we're passing in the unique identifier, or sorry, keep getting it screwed up. So from our main Lambda function here, we're bringing in the context, which includes the AWS request ID. And then if the case equals create post, we're passing in the event, post username, and then context dot AWS request ID. And then within the create post Lambda function, we're passing in the post username UUID is a string, which should give us something like this guy over here, right? And then that's how we're creating a unique identifier. I don't know. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. It kind of makes sense to me, but so if I do a clear, and then if we go up a couple and then compile and then redeploy, hopefully it picks up this change that we have made to our Lambda. Okay, so main, oh, did I make it? I made it to the wrong, whoops. I should have edited the TypeScript, main.typescript, because that compiles to the JavaScript. So I was in the wrong file. Okay, so let's go over here. I like this theme, but it's hard to see where the lines are drawn. But okay, so we want to also pass in to the context. What is app sync? Oh, okay, that's cool. So the app sync event. Well, I'm just gonna leave that there, and then we're gonna say text dot AWS request. So it's saying context any parameter context implicitly has an any type. What would it be though? I'm not sure what type context would be anyway. So maybe if let's do a little and TypeScript context. I wonder if I could, let's just try it. See if it throws an error. Because I'm not exactly sure what the type should be, right? Because like on the event, we're sort of, we are passing in the type app sync event, but I'm not sure what the context type would be. Where did that documentation go? Would this just be a stream? No, because then now it's saying that this is wrong. Well, now I'm stumped. Wait, yeah, can I just give it any actually? Oh, wow. So even okay. So you have to explicitly call it any. All right, let's try that. There we go. Well, we've definitely taken a detour from from the workshop here, but I think that this should work. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that the create post is the only part of our Lambda that, you know, you create, you're creating a post with a unique identifier, right? And then everywhere else in the application, you're just referencing that ID. So I think we should be okay now. Right. So if I come back over into our AppSync console, and well, first of all, if we look at Lambda again, functions, and we come over to create post. Okay, we can see that the changes have been made so that we're passing in this UUID, but instead of using the UUID module, we're actually just using the AWS request ID from the context object. I don't know. We'll see. Good times. Okay, so if I actually just execute this again, the create post mutation. Look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. Okay, we're back. We are back on track here. Alrighty. Okay, so now, right, if we go, we can query for the post that we just created. And if I should just copy and paste this here. And we can just paste that into the query. And then we execute the list post query. Oh, no. Logged out. Oh, darn it. Just need to log back in real quick. I think we can close out some of these guys. That was quite an interesting workaround there, but I'm glad we got it figured out. Learn something new today, right? That's the goal. Okay, so let me just get back into the management console here. Bring this back over. If I go to queries, and actually, since we've already posted it, you can actually just use this like drop. Oh wait, we have to log back in with our Cognito user pools. Forgot. Okay, so now we've logged back in with our Cognito user pools, and you can actually just use this this little like drop down area, I believe, because it's it's basically the same thing, like within the list post. But you know what? Let's just stick to the script here. And if I we'll just do that. And if I run this again, right? If we query the list post in AppSync, we can see the data returned, right? So we ran the mutation to create the post, and now we can run the query to list the posts as an authenticated user, and we're receiving it back back through here. So I think we're looking good so far. Okay, so you can also test out other operations. So we can update the post. So let's run that. So if I come back over to the AppSync console, and I'm just gonna run this guy, right? Because the title of our first post here is my first post, and we want to update the post to say my updated title. So if we run that, and then if I do a Control Z and then run the list post query again, now we can see that the title is my updated title. We can get post by ID. You know what? I didn't think that it was okay. It is 001. You know, we can also run the post by username. And then we can also delete the post. So let's try that actually. Well, you know what? Let's run all these queries. So we get it by ID. That works. Basically, we're just testing out all of our GraphQL operations, I believe, and get post by username. There's my username. All right, and if we delete, so now if we run the query list post again, we should get nothing back because now we've deleted. Yeah, so it's empty. We don't have any posts. Okay, so now it looks like, our backend is pretty much set to go, and the next part, it looks like, is working on the front end. Looks like the next part will be configuring the next app and being able to consume the API or the backend that we just created on the front end. So, but I think this is where I'm going to stop, and we'll pick up the front end part in part 4 of this workshop. And yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty far along. I don't know like how many actual parts of this workshop I'm going to end up doing, like as far as like how far we get, but I think that was a good place to call it a stream, and then we'll pick up on creating the front end next time. So so I'll catch you next time. Thanks.